Welcome to Midday. We're chatting first here with Ellen and Glenn Smales and Dr. Jill Calder. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We have a big event coming up in Kamloops, one that's near and dear to the Broadcast Center's heart. It is the ALS Walk that's happening on June 17th. We are very privileged here to have your son, Claytons Smales, who worked for Broadcast Center for many years, who was diagnosed with ALS and ultimately lost his battle to it. And I can't tell you how highly he is spoken of in this building and in the community. It's an honor for him to have been part of the broadcast family.
Thank you.
Would you tell us a little bit about your journey with Clayton as he was diagnosed and what you guys went through?
Amazing work these guys are doing here. Yeah.
Here we are. We have some footage of him before we start. Do you know, when would that have been?
He was diagnosed, or when he started with?
When this footage would have been. He looks very young there.
Yes. Oh, my.
That's a great picture.
And that's his wedding picture.
Oh, it's his wedding picture. Fantastic. So his journey with ALS began
in 2003.
in 2003,
In
okay.
September of that year.
And he passed away in 2009. So that was a lot of years for you guys to find out more about this disease and learn how people suffer with it.
It was very challenging for everyone, but it was amazing how everyone just gathered round and off we went.
And came together.
Yeah. And it was very special. Yeah.
He has raised so much awareness in your family about ALS and the walk. Again, this walk is taking place on June 17th, 9 a.m. in Riverside Park. Would you tell us a little bit about the walk and your experience with the walk?
Well, we're trying. We might not be in Riverside Park, though.
That's a good point. We have some high water. We'll keep people updated.
But yes, registration is 9 a.m. The walk starts at 10. We got a band that comes and plays Caught in the Act. It's going to be there until 1 this year.
Okay.
We're encouraging people to bring a picnic lunch.
Here we're looking at a little bit of footage here. It's a really fun day, a day for people to come together, raise awareness, and to remember those who have been diagnosed and maybe aren't with us anymore, but also to encourage those who are still battling this disease. We all remember the ice bucket challenge that happened, I believe, 2 summers ago.
Yes.
Wasn't that fun?
Oh, it was fascinating. And everyone who got doused with ice, even Squire
Yes.
at the peony.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember that one.
So funny to watch him. He just shivered.
And amazing to see people getting creative to raise awareness about ALS and what people go through with ALS.
Yes, it was.
And Dr. Jill Calder is joining us as well. I think a lot of people don't know the roots of this disease and where it started. You were mentioning it used to be called Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, there was a very famous baseball player in the 20s, and he developed weakness as a third baseman. His name was Lou Gehrig, and apparently knew his body very well. So as he was trying to slide to get a grounder, he knew that his left foot and ankle weren't responding the way they should. So he had very, very early signs of weakness, was diagnosed with it, and a very famous piece of footage of him actually is available through Google if you search Lou Gehrig and his famous speech to his fans saying, "I have a disease that is going to take me." And that was one of the most famous people of the time. So it was called Lou Gehrig's disease for many years. And then finally a more medical or nomenclature came up called ALS. It's Latin, but it stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is where in the spinal cord and motor nerves are affected. So that's a pathologist's term for it. So if you look down the spinal cord in cross-section, it's the anterior lateral column of cells that get hit by this disease, and we don't really know why. We don't know why that particular population of cells is hit so specifically, but that's where a lot of research continues to focus.
Yeah, concentrating the research on that. Lou Gehrig really raised awareness, like you said, and within our building, Clayton did that for us, and even on a larger scale in Kamloops. But like you said, you deal with a lot of patients who are suffering from ALS. Can you tell us a little bit about that? You mentioned some symptoms, weakness is one of it. What else could people watch for?
Well, something that sort of sneaks up on people is the sense that they can do something and then they can't, and they don't quite know why. And I think the pathognomonic symptom, the thing that stands out when I hear, is painless weakness. Usually when you get weak from a disc or something else, you have pain that goes along with the pattern of the weakness. But with ALS, it'll be grip strength subtly goes, where your one hand. With Clayton, as a cameraman, it was putting the camera on his shoulder.
Right.
And so
he was
it was
strong and
for me,
able
you know,
and...
for me, he was pretty, you know, a thin male, but the one side was the first sign that he couldn't hoist the camera on his shoulder the same way. And it does seem to affect the more used muscles first and worse. So that was kind of a telling sign. Cramping in a muscle, that you can do something but the muscle seems to be stiffening and cramping as a sign of early weakness. Charley horses in places that you don't normally get Charley horses. Usually we get them after running in our calves. That's not a sign of ALS ever. You don't have to report to an EMG lab just because of calf cramping.
And that is so important that people know the difference between a normal pain and something that is
a post-exertional pain of somebody who's just run a marathon and a bunch of calf cramping is pretty normal.
Right.
So you're getting cramps in places that you don't normally get them. A pectoralis muscle quivering or a biceps muscle quivering, and you really haven't done that much with that muscle to prompt that. So those are the biggest things. Swallow, speech being affected, the motor nerves can affect those areas, and some of my patients will have the swallow and speech be affected before their arms and legs. It's not like Lou Gehrig that went from legs up. It can be any pattern of loss.
So it's not as predictable maybe as
very
as some
individual,
other things.
actually.
Yeah, we can only imagine how hard it was to watch Clayton go through those things as people who loved him and knew him so well.
And he was so active and
Yeah, you saw him there in his cowboy hat.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
strong farm boy.
yes, and he loved to ride and do all sports really.
Yes.
And it was hard to watch the beginnings of it because you didn't know what it was, and it slowly became evident that something really serious was wrong.
So if there's one thing that you wanted to tell families or encourage families with who currently are walking through this disease with somebody that they love and are struggling, you know, to know just how to get day to day, what would the message be that you would want other families to hear?
Just hug them lots and keep going.
And get involved with the 4-H, with ALS Society, you know, because there's a world of help there
Yes.
if they, you know, want to have it.
Yeah.
So don't do it alone, do
No.
it together. And you guys have set such an amazing example of that, how to love someone as they're walking through an experience like this, and how to find support as well, because these things are always harder if we try and do them alone.
Oh, you can't do it alone because there's, you know, like the cost of the equipment that you need to get by
Yes.
is just prohibitive.
Yeah, not feasible.
Yeah.
So, and there are resources like Dr. Jill Calder who are experts in their field and can help you. So, a great place to get connected is through the ALS Society. So you can, there's a Facebook page, Kamloops Walk for ALS 2017, that you can visit. And there's no registration required. Just come on down to Riverside Park at 9 a.m. and you can register while you're there. I can't thank you enough for joining us, for sharing some of your expertise and sharing your journey, and your son, who's been such a great example of strength, and for loving somebody who is walking through something like this.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back with more Midday in just a moment.